Undercover CEO saw. Single dad, chef cooking at 2 a.m. What she found next changed her life forever. Do you always cut this steady at 2 in the morning? Aurora Quinn heard her voice before she meant to. The kitchen clock clicked at 2:03 a.m., a dry metronome under the hiss of steam. Fluorescence hummed. His knife kept time through a hill of carrots. Tap, 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 tap. Pause. Caleb Hart didn't look up. Steady keeps the soup from lying to you, he said. Uneven cuts, uneven cooking. Then the broth complains. The blade whispered again a rain of thin coins. Aurora eased the back door shut. The handle bit cold. Wet pavement drifted in on her coat. Under the borrowed jacket, the fake name tag pressed her collarbone. Rory. Aurora thought stay small. No speeches, just listen. This kitchen breathed. A pot sighed. The hood fan muttered. A loose valve tapped plink. Plink like a cautious heartbeat. A stock pot exhaled bone celery peppercorn. Onions turned sweet. Caleb wiped his hands and nudged a stool toward her without meeting her eyes. If you're on nights, Rory, sit. You sound like your feet are arguing with you. She sat. The legs squealed against tile. Aurora thought this is what quiet is after months of noise machines breathing a single man giving the night a job. Where'd you learn to hear soup lie? She asked. 2 places, he said. Chop, school, chop, life. He lifted the lid a breath. Steam braided with old coffee. School teaches layers. Life teaches what not to say while it simmers. Like what he tasted from a wooden spoon, shook his head, reached for salt. The grains hit like brief rain. Like, I'm tired, when the kid is sleeping and the rent is due. She matched her breathing to the room's patience. Rory, she reminded herself. Go where no one needs you to be important. He nodded at a crate. Hand me the celery. Pale ones. Tough strings make a bitter choir you can't silence later. She slid damp stalks across. Scent rose green and clean. You ever get used to this hour? She asked. The dark 2 strokes trimmed the tired parts. No. You make a bargain with it. Trimmings to stock. Night lets me count without anyone listening. Count what things I can still fix. The fan changed pitch. The dishwasher settled. The blade's consonants felt like mercy order in repeatable acts. Public storms had sounded like judgment. This sounded like mending. Most people don't choose the graveyard she offered. Most people haven't met the day shift. A quick half smile. You can hide in the night without lying. Daylight expects your face to mean something. She let that sit, then asked, You said, kid. His hands paused. A droplet hissed on the burner. Kids, he corrected. In general. The knife resumed. I read the label wrong once. Won't happen again. She let the deflection pass, the way a pot returns to a simmer. What's the dish? She nodded toward the guarded pot. Common food, he said. Soup that knows dawn is coming, whether you're ready or not. He lowered the flame. You hungry? I don't clock in hungry, she lied. Her stomach answered. He heard it ladled a sip into a paper cup and offered it like a truce. The first mouthful was humble. Then it unfolded. Salt arrived, second polite. Celery kept its voice low. A bay leaf taught the pot to remember the sea. Beneath it, a sweetness that belonged to patience. Aurora thought it tastes like someone waited. What do you call it? She asked. Names make people nervous, he said. I let the bowl talk. She tapped the cup, 1, 2, 3, matching the clock. You always work alone. Not always, he said too quickly. Then softer. Most nights. Must be quiet. Quiet's where you hear what the day drowned. He gathered carrot confetti, slid it into a hotel pan. Metal on metal chimed. The ice machine exhaled. Cubes collapsed like thin walls. A siren threaded the street and frayed. The air smelled of stock and lemon. You talk like the soup owes you the truth, she said. I talk like it gives what you give it. Attention is heat. Time is salt. Stir and don't walk away. He looked up. His eyes were used the way good pans are. You learn that in school, too. She let it pass. I learned it from a mistake that made a lot of noise, she said. Noise doesn't make you wrong, he said. Just loud. They worked without talking or tearing parsley, him folding heat into onions until they went sweet. He hummed 3 notes, a pause, 3 again. Aurora thought not a tune, a habit, a way of keeping count. If you're back tomorrow, he said at last, be here at 2. 2:03 is late for carrots. She almost smiled. We're timing vegetables now. We're timing mercy, he said. Dawn doesn't wait. The clock clicked 2:30. The walk-in coughed cold. Aurora set the parsley down and matched his rhythm with 2 fingers on her knee tap, tap, tap. She wanted to ask the question, humming under her ribs. Who taught you to treat silence like company? But the room had given enough. She stood. The stool scraped. Good night, Caleb. Night, Rory. He turned back to the board. She reached the swinging door and paused. The hinge creaked. The fan kept its steady confession. She felt the fake name against her skin and wished just for a breath to be exactly who it said she was, ordinary enough to be taught how to listen. Then the night shifted. From beyond the office, a room she'd assumed was storage. Something soft disturbed the hush. Not the building. Not a pipe. A sound that didn't belong to metal or motors. A small muffled cough. Aurora froze, hand on the door heart, finding a new rhythm. She looked back at him. He hadn't moved. She thought, who else is here? The cough came again, small, shy like a secret escaping. Caleb set his knife down, voice calm. Come on out, Lil. It's all right. From behind the office curtain stepped a girl, barefoot hair in soft tangles, clutching a worn, stuffed bear. She blinked at the lights towel still draped across her shoulders. Kitchen rules, Caleb asked. Walk, not run, she recited, and taste only when Dad says so. Aurora smiled. I like those rules. Lily studied her name tag. Rory. Are you new or temporary? New, Aurora said, trying to learn which soups lie. Lily grinned. Dad says soup tells the truth if you listen nice. Caleb sighed, hiding a smile. She thinks the broth gossips when I'm not looking. The clock ticked to 11. Steam curled like soft breath. Aurora watched the rhythm between them, the man, the child, and the night that wrapped them close. You're up late, she said. Sometimes the night forgets to end. Lily answered, settling onto a stool. Can I taste the carrots, too? Caleb said, passing her slivers. She crunched. Crisp talks. Mush lies. Aurora laughed. The sound startled her. It felt alive. Caleb lifted a spoon toward his daughter. Tell me what it needs. Lily sipped carefully, humming in thought. The thing that makes it soft again. Time, he said. Time, she echoed, tapping the spoon twice, and a pinch of the grainy part. Aurora murmured, You two make cooking sound like prayer. Caleb shrugged. Sometimes it is. Prayer with heat. They worked in small harmony, Caleb chopping Aurora, tearing parsley Lily, watching every move like it mattered. Cooking's how we talk, Lily said suddenly, when words don't work right. Aurora felt something sting behind her eyes. When did I forget that kind of talking? A phone buzzed. Caleb checked the screen, jaw tightening. He flipped it, face down. You okay? Aurora asked. Bills, he said simply. They like to sing at night. Then we'll keep the beat, she said, tapping the counter softly. Lily joined sneakers, tapping in rhythm. The air lightened. Do you know magic? Rory Lily asked. What kind? The kind that makes bad days forget to come. Aurora smiled. Then my magic is quiet. Lily nodded, content. Quiet strong. The fan hummed steady. Soup whispered. Outside, a truck rattled by. For a moment, it was peace, the kind you don't notice until it's gone. Can I do the carrots next time? When your hands grow another inch, Caleb said. Sharp things, remember. Lily yawned, clutching her bear. "We leave the office door open," she told Aurora, "so the soup doesn't get lonely." Aurora's gaze drifted to that small door, imagining a couch, a blanket, a world built from leftovers and love. Not pity, she thought. Respect. Then metal scraped at the back door. A key. Turning wrong. Caleb froze. "Don't talk," he whispered. "Just listen." The chain rattled again. Lily pulled the towel tighter. Aurora met Caleb's eyes. The unspoken message hit her like heat. "If you're with us, stay with us." The lock clicked. Aurora moved first. She lifted the pot lid and stirred hard. Steam roared up loud and alive. "Hey, Caleb," she called casual. "You still need those invoices," he caught on instantly. "Top drawer by the fan. Bring the red folder." Aurora walked toward the office, heart pounding. Behind her, Lily's breathing went small. The key slid deeper into the lock. Metal scraped metal. Then silence. The lock paused, metal clenched against metal. Then 2 soft taps on the door, spaced like a heartbeat. Caleb exhaled. "Ramon," he murmured. "Night rounds." He cracked the door. Damp air breathed in from the alley. "All good?" a low voice asked. "Good," Caleb said. "Soup's honest." A chuckle, a shuffle of keys. "Keep it warm," Ramon said, footsteps fading like a zipper, closing the night. The kitchen took its shape again, the fan's hush, the clock's small insistence, the pot's steady confession. Lily slid off the stool and hugged Aurora's hip without thinking, the towel whispering as it shifted. "You brave, Aurora?" asked softly. Lily looked up serious. "Dad says brave is just breathing on purpose." Caleb kissed the top of her head. "Office," he said. 10 minutes. Couch toes under the blanket. Benny guards. Benny's the bear. Lily explained to Aurora, already retreating. "He bites bills." "Start with the small ones," Aurora said. Lily giggled and disappeared, door left open a thumb's width so sound could pass. They worked in the hush she was learning to trust. Caleb skimmed the broth with a spoon, gestures precise, respectful. Aurora stacked pans to keep the clatter low. In the office, Lily's whisper sigh synced with the clock. "You handled that," Caleb said at last. "Kept the beat," she answered. "You fixed the notes." He huffed a tired laugh. "That how harmony works." "It's how promises do," she said, surprised at herself. Caleb tasted considered. "Needs a quiet heat," he said, reaching for pepper like someone reaching for a memory. "So it warms without shouting." They finished the batch and cooled it in metal hotel pans. Steam lifted and thinned, carrying celery and patience. When the lids kissed the pans, the room grew gentler. He wiped the board, then leaned against the table as if listening for something far away. "You didn't have to step in," he said. "Maybe I needed to," she answered, and let the truth stand without a speech. He nodded, as if that made sense in a language he spoke. "You're back tomorrow if you'll have me." 2, he said. 2:03 is late for carrots. Nights became a quiet truce. Aurora learned the kitchen's pulse the way a musician learns a friend's breath. 2 a.m. meant carrots. 2:10 celery. 2:20 the time bundle tied gentle so it wouldn't swagger. She learned the sound of dice-sized onions turning sweet, the shift from sharp to forgiving. She learned that the walk-in coughed just before the ice machine sighed, and that Lily's yawn arrived at 2:47 most mornings like a tiny door opening. She kept her eyes on the small work. Tear parsley by feel. Count out peppercorns like she was counting old regrets. Stir until the broth stopped arguing. She let the fake name ride her collarbone and decided not to hate it. Rory could be the person who showed up on time and listened. One night, a box came in too heavy for one back. She reached first. "I've got the low end," she said, fingers under cold metal. He took the higher side. When they set it down, their hands touched work-rough human. Not a spark, not fireworks, just the proof of gravity. 2 people carrying the same weight is less. Lily drowsed on the office couch, the bear's ear flattened under her cheek. She sat up to sip a spoonful, then let sleep fold her again. Caleb looked at his daughter the way some people look at sunrise, like it arrives whether you deserve it or not. "Why nights?" Aurora asked, finally giving the question the air it had been asking for. "Day shift pays better." He rinsed his hands. The faucet coughed, then cleared its throat. "Day asks to be looked at," he said. "Night asks to be listened to." He dried his hands slowly. "And quiets when the past behaves. What does it do when daylight talks over the present?" His mouth tugged into something like a smile. "At night I can invite it to sit and not run the place." She waited. He didn't move on in a hurry, and she respected the discipline. He took a breath like someone about to open a door on a cold porch. Jenna hated hospitals, he said, naming the ghost without flinching. Said they smelled like boiled Band-Aids. When she got too tired to pretend she'd sit at the table and boss me from a chair. "Slow the knife, Hart. Let the onions apologize." Made me laugh when I thought I couldn't. He glanced toward the office where Lily's breathing drew small circles in the air. After, night was only place big enough for what stayed. The hood fan's pitch shifted a small sympathetic sound. Aurora kept her voice soft. What stayed her corrections, he said, and something like gratitude warmed the words. And the flavor of the last soup she taught me to finish without her hands on it. Aurora let silence do the right thing. The clock ticked, approving. He reached for a stained index card trapped under a magnet. It was old, the edges singed as if it had once met a stove the hard way. The top line had faded to a whisper of graphite. He didn't offer it, just touched the corner with his thumb. She named it Aurora, asked. She said names make people sure, he answered. And I needed a sure thing. "What's it called?" He looked at the card, then at the pot, then at the office door. "Not tonight," he said, not unkind. "Some flavors you say out loud and they leave." "Then keep it," she said. "I can just listen." He nodded once. "That helps." A timer peeped. He killed it with a finger and lifted the lid. Steam rose warm, carrying something like citrus you couldn't point to. He stirred. "You keep showing up." He said, "You're going to learn more than soup." "What else is there?" "How to wait without quitting," he said. "How to be strong without noise." Lily's voice floated from the office, a dream-soft murmur. "Stay." She breathed and turned. The word landed in the kitchen like a small bell. Aurora felt it in her ribs. She looked at Caleb, but he only listened to his daughter like someone listening for rain that will come either way. He set the ladle down, slow. He wiped the board, cleaned the strokes even. "Do you ever miss mornings?" she asked. "Every time we make them taste right," he said. She reached toward the magnet as if adjusting it only to feel the texture of the card's charred edge, a memory that had met flame, and decided to keep living anyway. The faintest letters whispered through the grease M.R.E. Lee. Rory Caleb's voice came gentle, not warning, not possession, just the sound you make when you want to know if someone is where they say they are. "I'm here," she said, letting the card be. "I'll be here at 2. The fan steadied. The ice machine swallowed and sighed. Outside, a bus groaned past late people going home to early alarms. Aurora thought night doesn't hide anything. It just asks for honesty. She reached for the tasting spoons, drew one free. Its handle was worn, smooth initials scratched faint as breath. She didn't read them. Not yet. She dipped, blew, tasted. The warmth spread slow, a patient light. "It's close," she said. "It'll get there," he replied. "Everything good takes a little longer than pride allows." A shadow passed the frosted pane of the back door, a figure slowing, peering in, then moving on. A pause. A hush. Aurora's skin prickled, not danger exactly, but attention. She set the spoon down carefully, the ring it made against the counter bright as a note. "Who keeps looking for you?" She asked the question, slipping out before she could fence it. "Everyone and no one." He answered, eyes on the pot. "What about you?" Aurora's mouth opened, then closed. Somewhere far off, a phone vibrated a message she had silenced for weeks, finding another way to be heard. The clock clicked 2:59. She looked at the office doorway where Lily slept beneath a towel and a bear with a tired ear, then at the singed card whispering a name she could almost make out. She had the sudden, unreasonable certainty that if she said the name, the story would change. She wet her lip. "It's called." Caleb lifted one finger, listening to the simmer. "Not yet," he said quietly. "Listen. It's about to tell us." The printer in Aurora's apartment clicked and sighed like a tired animal. Pages slid out warm edges, whispering. She laid them on the table. Transcripts, scholarship notices, a faded photo scanned from a culinary school newsletter. She traced the headline with her thumbnail, Le Cordon Bleu Honors Caleb Hart, then the date. Years ago. Before the night shift. Before the small cough behind an office curtain. Aurora thought facts are loud. Truth is usually quiet. She closed her laptop. The hinge made a soft swallow. In the hallway, a neighbor's radio murmured an old soul song about second chances. She listened until the chorus faded, then tied her hair, grabbed the borrowed jacket, and let the door snick behind her. She reached the back entrance before 2. The alley breathed rain and last night's bread. Inside the kitchen woke in small sounds, hood fan clearing its throat pilot lights, licking to life. Caleb was already at the board, shoulders squared to work. Knife metronome. Tap, tap. Pause. Tap. "You're early," he said without looking up. Trying to be on time for time, she answered. "Good student," he said, and kept cutting. They moved in the old rhythm. Carrots down to coins. Celery to faithful moons. Onion diced until the room stopped stinging and started forgiving. She tied the time in a neat little bundle, the twine squeaking against her fingers. Lily snored once from the office, turned and went still. The clock ticked its small sermon on patience. "Where'd you learn all this?" Aurora asked gently. "School," he said. "Chop, life, chop. Same as everyone. Not everyone ends up with a scholarship photo in a glass case," she said before she could swallow the line. The knife paused above a carrot. A long second stood between them, breathing. The hood fan puffed a slow apology. Caleb set the blade down, safe side, and finally looked at her. "Glass doesn't feed anybody," he said. No bite, just the truth. "I wasn't prying," she said. "Sure you were," he answered, not unkind. Curiosity keeps broth from going thin. He turned to the stove. A heavy pot waited on low-heat metal ticking as it warmed. He added oil hiss. Onions went in a paper-soft sizzle. He didn't rush them. He stirred until the sharp edge dulled and something sweet rose like a memory deciding to be kind. Aurora heard a different rhythm tonight. Fewer words, more care. Caleb reached for a bowl tucked aside, covered with a clean towel. He set it near the flame as if introducing two friends. "What's in there?" she asked. "Something that wants warmth before it tells you who it is," he said. He lifted the towel. A dough, simple, modest, specked with something citrusy, gave off a whisper of perfume. Not dessert, not bread. Aurora leaned closer and smelled light. Sunshine, if it could be grated. Zest, she guessed. A promise, he said. From a place in the day we can still borrow. He ladled a little of the sweating onions into a small pan and added a splash of water. Gentle sounds like a conversation that had finally softened. He tore the dough into thumb-sized dumplings and set them to the side. Not yet, not yet. He opened the low drawer under the prep table and pulled out a warped metal tin. Inside lay a stack of index cards bound with a rubber band that had tired years ago. He eased the crackling band aside and found the top card by feel. It had been scorched. The edges curled inward, tan to brown to a thin black lace. A corner was gone, bitten away by flame. The handwriting was clean but faded. She could make out just enough to hear the title in her head. Even if her eyes couldn't catch every letter, Morningly Caleb didn't pass the card. He held it like a photograph you don't let leave your hands. His thumb found the bottom edge and rubbed, maybe to coax a ghost, maybe to settle himself. He set the card on the lip of the stove where he could see it without seeing it. "Is that the last lesson she gave you?" Aurora asked, keeping her voice low so it didn't tip anything over. "It's the first one she didn't get to finish out loud," he said. He waited for the onions to cross their invisible line. The sound changed smaller bubbles a softer argument. He added celery, carrot, garlic smashed until it admitted it was garlic. He salted in 3 small rains. Water followed. The pot sighed as if it recognized an old song, and those Aurora nodded at the dumplings. "Clouds," he said, almost smiling. She called them that. Said, "Every hard day needs sky." Aurora let herself laugh once quiet. "Sky you can chew." "Exactly." He tested the broth, turned the flame down, and folded the clouds in one by one. They bobbed, listened, and then began to swell just a little, taking on heat without losing themselves. He shaved in a breath of lemon he didn't want you to notice, just enough to keep the light from dying. He stood back, hands on the rim, and the room changed. The air smelled like something gentle waking up. It wasn't the rich blanket of standard stock. It was morning, somehow warm and fresh and forgiving. "What's the secret ingredient?" Aurora asked, not as a thief, but as a witness. He watched the surface settle. "Time," he said. "That's the only thing that makes things tender again." Aurora thought he's not talking about soup. She didn't say it. She didn't have to. The clock did the counting for them. He reached for a spoon, tasted, closed his eyes. When he opened them, he didn't bother hiding the shine. "Close," he whispered. She'd tease me. Tell me to apologize to the time and stop rushing. "You're not rushing," Aurora said. "Grief," Izzy answered. "It forgets there's a difference between finished and done. They let the pot think." Lily's voice drifted from the office, a thimble of sound. Dad, Caleb, wiped his hands, stepped to the doorway. "Right here, Bug." "Is it morning?" she asked, still half under. "Almost," he said. "We're borrowing it." "Bring me a cloud," she murmured, already sliding back into sleep. He smiled into the door as if it could hold it, and returned to the stove. He ladled a small bowl and set it near the fan so it would cool without losing its kindness. Aurora tasted second, the way you do when you're a guest in a story. Heat settled behind her sternum and didn't leave. It tasted like a room with a chair saved for you. It's... She searched for a word that didn't make it small. "It's mercy you can hold." Caleb nodded, once grateful and not triumphant. She used to say, he added, and his voice thinned a little, "Make it so the morning forgives whoever eats it." Aurora placed the bowl down carefully. The metal touched the counter with a small ring. She felt a decision rise the way steam rises when you finally lift the lid. A tasting. Not a stunt. Not a show. A room full of people who'd forgotten what food could make them remember. Her phone vibrated at her hipboard chat morning schedule, a donor asking about visibility. The names marched across the screen like spoons clanging. She put it face down. She chose the quiet. "Caleb," she said, "would you ever hypothetically cook this for people who don't know they need it?" "I cook for whoever shows up," he said. "Then because even hypothetical things deserve honesty, if they can hear." "They'll hear," she said, meaning she would make sure they had to. He glanced at the scorched card. "Some won't like it. It's not fancy. It's just true." "True is what we're out of," Aurora replied. The timer peeped. He silenced it with a touch. They portioned the soup into shallow pans, setting them to cool, each lid set on a tilt, so steam could leave without the light going with it. The routine was clean, practiced, reverent. At the end, he slid the card back into its tin and replaced the tired rubber band with a fresh one from the drawer. The new band snapped into place with a soft, decisive sound like a line being drawn where it always should have been. Aurora wiped the table. The rag made a quiet track. "Will you teach me this?" she asked. "Slow." "I will," he said, not looking up, "if you don't name it out loud." "Deal," she said. The office door creaked. Lily stood there, hair a small storm eyes still in yesterday. She rubbed her cheek with the bear's ear and sniffed. "Is it the morning one?" she asked. "It is," Caleb said. "Borrowed, not stolen." Lily padded to the counter, took a tiny spoonful, and closed her eyes. "It tastes like when the light finds you," she whispered. Aurora swallowed against the sudden heat in her throat. She heard herself say too fast, "We should," and stopped. "We should," what Caleb asked. She looked at the door at the pot at the card with its burned edge that had decided to stay. Her phone buzzed again, insisting. She turned the vibration off. The silence felt like a promise. "We should let other people remember," she said softly. "I know a way." Caleb studied her a heartbeat longer than comfortable. "Careful," he said. "Some rooms mistake mercy for weakness." "Then we'll bring heat," Aurora answered. "Quiet heat." He nodded, almost despite himself. "Okay." And right then, from the alley, footsteps slowed at the frosted pane. A shadow paused and leaned listening as if the night itself wanted a taste. Aurora thought, if they come inside, I can't be Rory much longer. The clock clicked 3. The private dining room at Luna Table woke like an instrument tuning itself. Crystal clicked. Chairs whispered over wood. A dimmer hummed down to a warm hush. On the table, 10 tasting spoons lay in a neat line like silver commas waiting for a sentence to begin. Aurora, still Rory, to the kitchen, stood behind the swinging door, listening to the room settle. Muffled voices, the board chairs, slow baritone, a donor's careful laugh, the CFO's pen ticking like a nervous metronome. She pressed her palm to the cool porthole glass. On the other side, expectation had a sound. "Ready?" Caleb asked, quiet as steam. His jacket rustled when he moved. Cotton clean, no vanity. He checked the stock's breath. The hood fan lowered its voice as if letting the soup speak. "Only if you are," Aurora said. "I'm not," he answered, honest. "But the soup is." In the office, Lily's sleepy whisper floated out. "Dad is tonight the listening kind." "The listening kind," he said, and kissed the top of her head. Back in a few. They moved in a choreography the room hadn't earned. Aurora set out the shallow bowls to warm. Caleb stirred until the surface went glass quiet again. He tied the time bundle tighter so it wouldn't show off. He shaved a breath of lemon, barely a sound, a soft rasp like a match head thinking about fire. Aurora's phone buzzed in her pocket, insistent. She turned it, face down, silenced. The door swung softly as the GM slipped in. "They're ready," he murmured. "They think they're here to hear about margins." "They'll hear," Aurora said. Caleb ladled with the care you reserve for carrying someone else's story. Each bowl received heat as if it were a visitor. Clouds, those thumb-sized dumplings, lifted and settled. Steam rose and folded itself back down, not wanting to leave. They carried the bowls into the private room together. The chatter thinned. The board chair's pen stopped. Spoons clicked as people adjusted their place settings, a small metallic ripple. "What are we tasting?" the CFO asked, suspicion lacquered over curiosity. "Not a headline," Aurora said. "Just morning." The board chair cleared his throat. "Ms." He stopped searching her name tag. "Rory." He let it go with a polite, "Proceed." Caleb said nothing. He placed the last bowl, stepped back, and let the soup be its own introduction. The room breathed out. 10 spoons dipped, 10 mouths blew, 10 first sips landed. Silence. Not polite silence. The kind that pulls a chair for memory. Someone set a spoon down too gently to make a sound. The CFO's pen didn't tick. He'd forgotten to hold it. The PR director's bracelets, usually small wind chimes, rested perfectly still. Aurora tasted last. The heat touched her lip and traveled inward, untying a knot she'd been tightening out of habit for months. The cilantro brightness she hadn't named lifted. The lemon thread, if you didn't listen, you'd miss it, kept the sweetness honest. And under it, the most impossible thing, a softness that didn't fall apart. She heard herself make a sound that wasn't pretty. Not a sob, not exactly. A break in the voice, the kind you don't plan. She swallowed. It didn't help. Tears warmed her eyes, then her face. She was grateful the room had lowered its lights. "It tastes like something I lost," she said to the table and to herself. Across from her, a donor with the posture of an heir closed his eyes and nodded slow. "My mother's kitchen radio," he whispered. "Sunday, before church." The board chair exhaled through his nose a small surrender. The PR director found her bracelet again, thumbed it once, then let it be. "What is it?" the CFO asked, but the question had softened. He wasn't interrogating anymore. He was trying to name a color on a black and white screen. Caleb's voice came gentle. "Common food," he said. "Borrowed from morning. Fed with patience." "Secret ingredient?" the donor asked. "Time," he said. "That's the only thing that makes things tender again." A chair leg slid barely. The GM, standing ghost still at the door, cleared his throat. "We can't plate this for 300, he murmured half to Aurora. "We don't need 300, she replied under her breath. "We need 10 rooms like this in neighborhoods that have forgotten what their kitchens sound like." The board chair set his spoon down with a small, deliberate ring. "What's the plan?" he asked. Aurora's heart stepped hard. Her mouth moved before caution could tie it. "A series of listening dinners," she said. "No menu written, no photography in the room, no names on the invite, just a time, a place, and a suggestion to arrive hungry for more than food." The PR director sat up, bracelets waking. "Story value?" she asked. "Human value," Aurora countered. "And the story will take care of itself." The CFO finally found his pen, clicked it once, twice, quietly, like he didn't want to offend the broth. Cost structure. Caleb lifted another spoonful to his own mouth, not to taste the soup, but to buy time for Aurora. He didn't interrupt. He didn't speak for her. The spoon clinked the bowl a tiny bell. "Low-cost ingredients, high-cost attention," Aurora said. "We fund the patients. We feed the rooms. We measure the silence after the first bite." The board chair's mouth tilted into something almost like amusement. "Measure silence," he repeated. "That's new. It's the only metric that mattered in here," she said, and didn't apologize for the tremor in her voice. The chair lifted his spoon again, tasted, set it down with another small ring. "We'll pilot 3, he said at last. "Invite our partners. No press. Yet." The PR director coughed. "We should capture content." "No," the chair said. "If I see a light, I'll leave." A ripple of relief passed through Aurora's chest, audible only to her. She let out a breath she'd been clutching since the first bowl crossed the threshold. At the far end, a donor dabbed his eye and chuckled at himself. "What's the chef's name?" he asked. "You've got one." Aurora met Caleb's eyes. He gave the smallest nod. "Say my name like it's small, like it fits in a kitchen and not a billboard." "Caleb Hart," she said. A pause. The name sat in the room and made itself useful. The board chair said it once himself, testing the weight. "Caleb," he repeated, approving the mouthfeel. He turned to the GM. "Schedule the pilots. Start next week." The GM nodded, scribbling. His pen scratched like match on sandpaper. Rory the chair added, flicking a glance at her name tag as if pinning her in place. "You'll coordinate. You seem to know where to find the good heat." "Good heat? Quiet heat." Aurora inclined her head. "I'll keep the beat," she said. "He'll fix the notes." Caleb's mouth tugged just at one corner. From the kitchen, the dishwasher finished a cycle and sighed. From the alley, a scooter buzzed and vanished. In the office, Lily rolled over. The couch creaked its old bones. The world went on. For a breath, the room agreed to listen. Then a phone vibrated across wood, urgent, unfamiliar. The PR director's screen lit up bright enough to paint her face. She squinted, thumbed, and looked up sharply. "Wait," she said, bracelets chiming. "Who authorized tomorrow's press walk-through? They want to meet the night crew. They have a list of names. The board chair frowned. We didn't. All eyes slid softly but undeniably toward Aurora. Her phone, face down in her pocket, began to buzz again, harder this time, as if a door on another life was being knocked and knocked and knocked. The tasting had ended, but silence lingered like steam refusing to rise. Aurora stood in the empty kitchen phone, buzzing inside her pocket. "Go ahead," Caleb said, wiping the board. "Answer it before it burns a hole." She didn't. The vibration died just in time for the GM to slip in, pale and sweating. "Rory, Ms. They're here. Cameras, lights, a crew from the network. They said the CEO's night team." The word CEO landed like metal on marble. Caleb froze. Lily's voice drifted faintly from the office. Dad Aurora's mouth went dry. "They weren't supposed to." The PR director appeared behind the GM. "They said you invited them, Aurora Quinn." Her real name broke the room open. Caleb turned slow. "Aurora," he repeated, tasting the lie. "You're the CEO." "I was," she said. "Tonight, I was just observing." He cut in. "Another experiment." "No," she said. "Listening." The PR woman backed away, leaving air too heavy to breathe. Lily stirred again, voice soft. "Dad." "Stay there, Bug," he said gently, eyes fixed on Aurora. "You came down here to study us." "I came to remember what truth sounds like," she whispered. "The board, the noise, it all drowned me." Caleb shook his head. "Truth doesn't need saving by someone with a camera crew. I didn't call them. Nothing happens here without you," he said. "Not even mercy." The swinging door cracked open. Light spilled in, white, sterile corporate. Voices rose. "Miss Quinn," a producer called. "We're rolling in 5. Aurora flinched. They weren't cleared. Caleb's tone was calm, lethal. "Then stop them." "I can't." "You can," he said. "You just have to pick which life survives it." The producer's face appeared in the porthole window. Ms. Quinn Aurora looked down at her name tag, Rory. The fake name had softened her. Now it cut her. She peeled it off. The adhesive whispered like a secret leaving. Caleb watched. "I don't need you to be small," he said. "Just real." She stepped into the hall. Cameras pivoted toward her, hungry. "No footage," she said. "This kitchen is off limits." Protests rose, contracts, airtime exposure. She didn't blink. "Send your invoices to me. Then send your people home. You'll kill the story," the producer warned. "Then it wasn't worth telling," she said, and shut the door. She leaned her forehead against the cold steel. On the other side, the fan hummed steady as a heartbeat. When she turned, the kitchen was quiet again, Caleb tying a bundle of time as if calming the air. "What now?" she asked. "Now," he said, "you tell Lily why the hallway got loud with your real name." Aurora nodded, voice trembling. "Okay." He turned off the burner. The flame snapped and vanished. "We're leaving," he added. "She needs sleep, not headlines. I never meant to make you part of a story." "You already did," he said. "The moment you called this healing. Will you come back?" she asked. He studied her a long second. "If the night forgives you," he said. "If you learn to listen without proof." He wiped the board, clean, slow, deliberate. "You found us at 2 a.m. That part was real. Don't ruin it by turning it into content." Lily appeared at the doorway, clutching her bear. "Are we going home?" "Dad?" "Yeah," he said. "We'll take the sky with us tonight." She looked at Aurora, uncertain. Aurora knelt. "My name's Aurora," she said softly. "I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry." Lily blinked, studying her face. "Do we still get clouds?" "Not tonight," Caleb said. "Tonight, we let them rest." He helped Lily with her coat. The fabric whispered like a closing book. Aurora stood still while they crossed the room, the sound of their steps fading toward the back door. At the threshold, Caleb turned once more. "You wanted to learn quiet," he said. "This is what it costs." Then he opened the door. Cold air entered, carrying rain and absence. The latch clicked shut. The kitchen exhaled. One spoon slid off a counter and struck metal bright final true. Rain stitched the city into one sound. It hissed in gutters, ticked on fire escapes, and drummed a nervous rhythm on the thin awning above Caleb's door. Aurora stood there, coat-heavy breath fogging in the damp. She raised her hand and knocked 3 times steady, then waited with the rain. Footsteps inside. A chain slid. The door opened a cautious hand's width. Caleb's face appeared in the slice of warm air lit by the soft hum of an old lamp. "Aurora," he said, no anger in the name, just fact. "I came to say it where it counts," she answered, "not in a hallway with lights." He listened to the weather between them. Behind him a radiator ticked like a tired metronome. Lily's small voice floated from deeper in the apartment. "Dad, who is it?" Caleb unhooked the chain. A friend he called back then to Aurora, "Wipe your shoes." The floor complains. Inside, the apartment greeted her with the honest smells of evening wet wool, clean laundry garlic coaxing in a pan. Lily darted out with the bear under her arm and brightened. "You found us," she said, like it was a game. "The rain told me where to knock," Aurora said. She felt the truth of it. She would have kept knocking until it did. "Kitchen rules at home, too," Caleb said, nodding at the small galley. "Walk, not run, and talk like you want to be heard twice." Lily tugged Aurora toward the table, a sturdy thrift store square with one leg that needed shimming. A towel lay folded over a chair, a place saved. Aurora thought they saved me a seat I didn't deserve. She sat anyway. The stove clicked. Blue flame caught. Eggs hit the pan with a soft sizzle. Rice warmed in a pot that hummed like a low song. A simple broth murmured bouillon scallions, a paper-thin slice of ginger releasing its clean breath. The apartment's sounds stacked into a kinder version of the kitchen radiator tick spoon. Clink Lily's quiet hum as she set out 3 mismatched bowls. "You hungry?" Caleb asked without looking up. "Past hungry," Aurora said. "Good," he said. "Hunger tells the truth first." They ate at the table with the wobble. Chopsticks tapped bowls. Steam fogged Lily's glasses and made her laugh. Rain and laughter braided into one cloth. For a few minutes the only talk was the good kind, the kind spoons understand. When the bowls were half empty, Aurora put hers down, palms open. "I'm sorry," she said. The words felt unclenched at last. "I should have told you my name the first night. I should have sent the cameras away before they were born." Caleb let the apology land and sit. He took a sip of the broth, eyes on the table's scar where heat had once kissed wood too long. "Loud fixes are still fixes," he said. "They just demand witnesses." "I'm not here to fix," she said. "I'm here to learn what not to ruin." Lily leaned on the table, chin on fist. "Are you in trouble at your big office?" she asked, curious, not worried. Aurora breathed out a laugh she hadn't earned. "The grown-up kind," she said. "Meetings that use words like alignment when they mean pick a side. Pick us," Lily said, as if it were obvious. Caleb's mouth tugged. "Bedtime soon, bridge," he told his daughter. "I know." Lily scooted off her chair, then paused at Aurora's shoulder. "Do you still like clouds?" "Very much," Aurora said. "Good," Lily whispered. "We keep some for mornings." She padded down the hall. A door clicked, a small lamp switched off. The apartment got one shade quieter. Caleb cleared the plates, the sink running a thin ribbon. He didn't look at Aurora when he spoke. "Why are you really here?" "Because silence with you sounded more honest than explanations without you," she said. "Because my mouth kept making plans and your kitchen taught me to listen to clocks." He shut the water and turned. "Try again. Fewer nouns." She let that bite and then obeyed. "I hurt you," she said plain. "I don't want that to be the last sentence." The radiator sighed. A neighbor laughed through the wall 2 rooms over. Somewhere below them a door slammed. Ordinary thunder. Caleb leaned on the counterarms, folded, not defensive held. "I don't need fixing, Aurora," he said, voice even. You reminded me what real looks like." Her throat burned in the good way. She had been carrying that line like a match waiting for the right dark. "I can resign," she said, and heard her own heart in it. "Step down clean. Build something that doesn't ask mercy to perform. You don't owe me a gesture," he said. "You owe yourself a room that doesn't make you lie." She nodded, grateful he'd said it for her. Then, "Help me build it. No cameras, no names, just heat." He held her eyes long enough for 2 breaths. "We start with dinner," he said, "and we see if morning forgives us." They washed dishes together, sleeves damp at the wrists. She felt the weight of each plate leave her hands and return clean, the small satisfaction of a job that announces itself in drips. Caleb dried. She stacked. The cupboard gave small wooden answers. When the sink went quiet, he made tea, mint cheap but honest, and set a mug in front of her. "What happens to you tomorrow?" he asked. "An emergency meeting," she said. "Votes, statements, polite knives. And if they ask you to prove tonight, I'll tell them proof is what you serve when you don't trust your own tongue," she said. "They can eat somewhere else." He didn't smile, but something in his shoulders lowered. "Good sentence," he said. Thunder rolled low and far. The window rattled like a shiver remembering. Aurora watched rain stitch itself down the glass, steady, relentless. "Stay small," she told herself the way she had told herself to on the first night. "Be useful." "Lily's right," Caleb said softly, as if finishing a conversation the air had started. "You found us, or you saved a chair," Aurora said. "I'm late to it." He wrapped his hands around his mug. "I was going to call you," he admitted. The confession sounded like a spoon touching the side of a pot. "Then I decided to wait, to see if the night would bring you without a summons." "And I knocked," she said. "And you knocked," he echoed. A new silence moved in warm, not empty. The kettle ticked as it cooled. The fridge hummed a patient note. Aurora thought, this is the sound of a life that could be chosen. She set her mug down and spoke before courage cooled. "If you let me, I'll come back tomorrow. No badge, no pretense. I'll bring a notebook I'm not afraid to ruin." He nodded. "Come as the person who tasted first and talked last. I can do that." He glanced at the clock over the stove, its second hand stuttering. "It's late." "I'll go," she said, standing the floorboard under her heel, giving it small complaint. She reached the door and touched the chain as if to test whether she could be trusted with small metal. "Aurora," he said behind her. She turned. "Thank you for saying it here," he said. "Where the echo stays." "It's the only place it counts," she answered. She opened the door. Rain pressed its cool hand against her face. The hallway smelled like damp concrete and Monday. She stepped out and stopped. Another knock sounded from the floor below. 3 hard raps. Then a voice carrying up the stairwell official and tired Mr. Caleb Hart notice for Unit 3B. Paper rustled. Footsteps climbed. Caleb's jaw tightened. He looked at Aurora, then toward Lily's room. The knocking came again closer now, impatient. The rain kept its black metronome on the awning. Aurora thought the night just chose our next sentence. The knock came again, 3 sharp raps. Notice for Unit 3B. Caleb opened the door. The superintendent stood there, envelope in hand, smelling of rain and duty. "Sorry, man, just delivering." Caleb took it. Paper rasped. Aurora caught the math in his silence balance due. "How bad?" she asked. "Louder than the kettle," he said, folding it once. "I won't let you do that alone," she said. "Don't let me," he replied. "Stand with me." She nodded, and something in the rain eased its rhythm like agreement. Morning brought weak sunlight and the smell of rice and eggs. Lily patted out hair wild. "Is it pancake day, rice and egg day?" Caleb said. "Then we'll make it taste like pancakes," she declared. Aurora smiled. "That's creativity disguised as survival." When the dishes were quiet, she said what had been waiting all night. "I'm resigning." The company can find another face. I'll build something real." Caleb tilted his head. "What's it called when fire keeps families warm but doesn't burn the house down?" "A hearth," she said. He nodded once. "Then build that." Lily clapped. "A hearth is where stories sleep and wake." Aurora leaned forward. "It'll be a school night classes for single parents and kids. Knife skills, cheap cuts, quiet dignity. No cameras, just heat." "And rent?" Caleb asked. "The first dinners pay for the next. I already called a few places church basements a laundromat with working stoves. If I quit today, we can sign tomorrow." Lily tugged Aurora's sleeve. "Can I teach clouds?" "You can name them," Caleb said. "I'll teach them to float." Aurora smiled. "Then it's settled." Caleb leaned back, studying her. "You sure about this? I'm tired of being impressive," she said. "I want to be useful." The kettle ticked like it agreed. The laundromat smelled of detergent and second chances. Dryers hummed like lazy drums. Caleb arranged carrots on folding tables. Knives gleamed under humming bulbs. Aurora passed around aprons. Lily set up a box labeled "Phones Taking a Nap." "Rule 1, Caleb said. "Walk, don't run. Blades are honest, they don't lie, they just prove you rushed." The room chuckled. A nurse in scrubs sliced carefully. An old man drummed the table with his thumb. The laundromat owner rang a bell every time someone made a perfect cut. The sound stitched the room together. Aurora watched them the way shoulders dropped, voices softened. Soup simmered on a single-burner onions, forgiving their sharpness. "Salts. How we remember to be kind," Caleb said, tying time with twine. "Too little life's dull. Too much it burns." A woman wrote it on a napkin like scripture. Lily moved among the kids. "No clouds tonight," she told them seriously. "But carrots are practice for clouds." Aurora crouched beside her. "You make rules like your dad cooks honest ones." The shelter director, wiping her eyes, laughed. "This is church that feeds you back." The dryers clicked off. For the first time, the room was still. Caleb tasted the soup, nodded once. "Good heat," he said. Aurora added softly, "Quiet heat." Someone started clapping, then another. Soon the whole room joined, no speech, no stage, just applause meant for themselves. The superintendent appeared at the door, hat in hand. "Heard you were starting something." Aurora met his eyes. "We're paying rent with food and respect." He looked around at the steam, the laughter, Lily's apron smudged with carrot juice. He pulled a folded notice from his pocket, studied it, then slid it back. "Maybe I lost this," he said, and left with the bell giving him one gentle note. Lily ran to the door. "He liked our soup." Caleb smiled, tired and proud. "He'll like it better Thursday." As the crowd dispersed, Aurora stacked cutting boards heart full in a way success had never managed. Caleb wiped the table's movements, slow, deliberate. He reached into his pocket and placed something small in her hand, a silver spoon, smooth from years of stirring. One word, carved shallow stay. Aurora traced the letters with her thumb. "You're sure it's what my wife said when she couldn't anymore?" he said softly. "It worked once. Maybe twice." Lily leaned against Aurora's side, eyelids heavy. "We made noises that sounded like home," she murmured. "We did," Aurora whispered. Outside, rain had stopped. A single car passed its tires, sighing against wet pavement. Then a flicker of light through the glass. A phone lifted, clicked. Aurora turned. A stranger in a hood lowered their camera and walked away. She closed her fingers around the spoon. "We'll need a rule for that," she said. Caleb met her eyes. "We will." The neon sign buzzed back to life. "Open it," said soft and certain, and for the first time it felt like truth. The church basement hummed like a sleeping animal. Freezers ticked. A Coke machine buzzed. Somewhere above, a choir practiced a hymn in pieces alto, then tenor, then silence. Folding chairs made small metal complaints as Aurora straightened the last row. She ran her thumb along the rim of a stainless pan. Smooth. Clean. Ready. Her heart not so much. She pressed the silver spoon in her pocket and felt the shallow word against her skin. Stay. The metal was cool. Her chest was not. Her phone vibrated on the prep table, 3 short pulses. She didn't look. She knew the pattern board press clarification request. Noise arrived in codes. Quiet didn't. Footsteps came down the stairwell, unhurried sure. Caleb's tread. He paused at the doorway and listened first the way he always did. Then he stepped in jacket sleeves, pushed to his forearms the day's work still in the weave. "You're early," he said. "So are you," she answered. "We teach at 7, he said. "But the room learns at 6. He set a paper grocery bag on the counter. Lemons bumped each other soft as eggs. He took them out one by one, placed them in a bowl like he was counting blessings, 1, 2, 3, 4. "Scent tells people they're welcome before words do," he said. He scored the peels with his knife, quiet even lines, and the air lifted. Aurora breathed in. "I needed that. Lemon doesn't fix anything," he said. "It just reminds the room to forgive." Upstairs the choir tried again, a chord held too long, then laughed at, then tried again. The building swallowed their joy and sent down pieces of it, tiny echoes bouncing off pipes. "Big night," he said, washing his hands. Water coughed, then ran. "Bigger than I promised," she admitted. "The laundromat photo got legs. We're trending in neighborhoods that don't know us." She lifted her phone, let the lock screen glow and die. "They want a statement." "You have one," he said. "Soup first." He dried his hands with a towel stored on a chairback. "What are we making that forgives latecomers?" he asked. "Beans and greens," she said. "Cornbread that doesn't crumble under pressure. Broth that carries more than it weighs." He smiled at that small. "Good verbs." They moved together in the practiced hush, her rinsing kale, him slicing onions, until they stopped complaining, both listening for the moment when garlic went from loud to helpful. She tied a bundle of thyme with string. He shook the pan so heat spread like news worth sharing. The stove fan hummed low, respectful. "Say the worry out loud," he said, not looking up. Aurora kept tearing leaves. "What if tonight makes us visible to the wrong eyes?" She tasted the word, wrong. "What if the board uses it to argue I wasn't fit to begin with?" "Then they will," he said. "And you will still know what a room sounds like when it remembers itself." "I don't want to cost you your peace," she said, "or Lily hers." He slid onions into the pot. They hissed, then settled. "Peace doesn't come free," he said. "It comes honest." The stairwell door creaked again. A draft licked the floor, then quit. Not guests yet, just the building shifting its weight. The choir ended on a chord that finally found itself. Someone upstairs clapped, once delighted. The sound found them and left them smiling. Caleb wiped his hands and leaned against the counter like he was standing at the edge of a pool. "Say the other worry," he said. Aurora stared at the spoon in her palm. The engraved word shone dull. She closed her fingers around it and let the metal press a truth into her lifeline. "I keep thinking about names," she said. "How I took yours and turned it into a plan. How you gave me one this." She lifted the spoon voice, thinning. "How the only thing I want to call us terrifies me." He didn't move. "Call us." "Beginning," she said. The word arrived like a soft bell. "And I don't know what shape it takes. I just know the quiet inside your rooms feels like a place I don't want to leave." He pushed off the counter and closed half the distance between them. Up close she could hear his breath even, the faint rasp of his sleeve when he folded his arms, the almost silent knock of his ring against the bowl. "You asked me once if I'd start again," he said. "I already did with you." The sentence landed like a warm plate in cold hands. She exhaled without permission. Somewhere upstairs a door shut with a hollow church thud. "Caleb," she managed. He glanced toward the staircase, then back. "I'm not good at speeches," he said. I'm good at standing in a room and keeping the heat steady. I can't promise you quiet. I can promise you work, and that I'll be here when the room forgets and gets loud." She laughed, a small broken thing that healed itself by the second syllable. "It's the most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me." The bar was low, he said, and the humor made room for the gravity. He reached for her hand. Not the spoon hand. The other. Skin found skin work rough and warm. He lifted her hand to his chest and let her feel his rhythm slow, certain. "Strong without noise," he said. "Strong without noise," she echoed. The basement listened. Light hummed. Water ticked. Two people stood still enough to let a promise form before they tried to name it. Then he leaned in the simplest way possible and kissed her like you taste soup you've made together, careful, grateful not to prove a point but to acknowledge one. Warmth spread the way it does when you swallow and the good part arrives late. The stairwell door rattled. They stepped back, breath rearranging itself. A porter poked his head in. "Smells right," he said, then vanished. The building returned to its murmur. Aurora touched her mouth and laughed softly at herself. "Now I have to say something brave to a room I cannot control." "Say less," he advised, turning the flame a hair lower. Rooms remember silence better than speeches. She nodded, slid her phone across the counter and typed a message to the board with hands that didn't shake, proceeding with tonight's community class as planned. No media, no statements. We serve first. She hit send and turned the phone face down as if tucking it in. People began arriving the way rain begins, one, then two, then a steady line. Shoes squeaked on tile. Coats whispered against folding chairs. Someone laughed at nothing and made three other people braver. The room took its first breath. Aurora stepped to the front. The spoon in her pocket felt like a cue. "Welcome," she said, and her voice had the tone of someone speaking to equals. "Phones nap in the box. We walk, not run. We'll make something that holds." A teenager dropped his phone into Lily's shoebox with a theatrical sigh that made the table chuckle. A woman in scrubs took a seat and closed her eyes for 3 seconds like a prayer. A man in a Union jacket rubbed his hands together over the steam-claiming heat. Caleb lifted his knife. "Knuckles forward," he said. "Let the onion apologize." The room's sound found its rhythm, fast, chop-scrape, stir, laugh. The choir started a new hymn overhead, just the melody this time, no words. It fit anyway. Aurora moved through the rows, tying aprons, adjusting grips, letting the work steady her. She passed behind Caleb. His sleeve brushed hers. The contact felt like punctuation enough to keep the sentence true. Her phone face down buzzed once, then again, then, longer insistent, a different tone. She glanced. A news alert pulsed on the lock screen. The laundromat photo enlarged. A headline, Undercover CEO's Hearth Raises Questions. Her chest cooled, then warmed back. She looked up. Later, Caleb murmured, reading her face. "We're busy." She slipped the phone under a towel. The spoon pressed against her hip like a nudge. "Stay." "More salt?" someone asked. "Kindness, not pity," Caleb said. 3 small rains. The pot answered with a single contented bubble. The room leaned in for its first taste. The stairwell door opened again, this time with a knock that didn't belong to guests. A new voice called down, polite but amplified by authority. "Ms. Quinn. A few questions before you begin." The room quieted in a ripple. Spoons hovered. Heat held. Aurora felt for the spoon, closed her hand around the word, and turned toward the stairs. The question at the stairwell never turned into a fight. Aurora met it with a steady breath and a small sentence. Phones nap. Soup first. The room learned quickly that answers taste better after the first bowl. Months turned like pages. Quiet built a spine. 1 year later, a bell over a new door chimed a clean, hopeful note. The sign outside was hand-painted letters, simple enough to trust second course. Inside, the dining room spoke in gentle sounds, forks setting down softly, Water poured like a small rain, an old playlist humming through a speaker that refused to be fancy. Walls carried the line Lily had chosen, and Caleb had carved with patient hands, built from midnight mistakes and mercy. Aurora stood at the pass listening to the kitchen breathe. The hood fan hummed like a content cat. Pans talked in whispers, not shouts. A line cook laughed at a joke no one heard. Somewhere by the dish pit water ticked from a drying rack. She pressed the spoon in her pocket. Stay, and felt its cool agreement. Her heart kept time with the ticket machine chirp, pause, chirp. Caleb slid beside her shoulder warm. "You're tapping," he said, amused. "Old habit," she said. "Keeps the room from thinking for me. Room thinks better than most people," he said, then nodded toward the window. The first customers of the night came in like a small parade. An ER nurse with her laces double-knotted, a bus driver whose hands still held the shape of a wheel, a student in a thrifted blazer practicing being brave. The bell chimed again, then settled. Lily, grown in inches, and Certainty wore an apron, with her name stitched crooked by a neighbor who charged them only in dumplings. She carried menus with both hands like a solemn gift. "Welcome," she said. "House rules. Phones, nap. Walk, not run, and taste before you talk about taste." A woman smiled at her. "Who made those rules?" "My dad," Lily said, then added, quieter, "and the room." Aurora moved to the host stand where the book of reservations sat heavy with penciled hope. She ran her finger down the names and paused at one that always felt like a test media too flexible. She closed the book and chose trust. In the kitchen, Caleb stirred a pot that had sailed with them through a year of Tuesdays. Steam lifted bright with thyme, humble with beans, and a lemon truth you only noticed when you listened. He tasted, closed his eyes, and nodded once. "It will hold," he said. "What's the secret ingredient?" a new line cook asked, a joke they all knew by now. "Time," Caleb answered. "Same as always." Tickets fluttered, plates slid, bread cracked with a soft grin. Aurora watched a table of paramedics fall quiet on their first bite and felt the room do what rooms do when heat is honest. They remembered themselves. A producer from local public television had been patient all year. She waited until the program could be about people and not a brand. Tonight, she sat in the corner recorder, off, pen-capped. She lifted a hand to ask permission. Aurora nodded. The producer spoke with a voice that didn't try to be bigger than the room. "Tell me what you wish people knew." Caleb wiped the pass with an even hand. "That most of cooking is learning to wait without quitting." "And most of eating?" the producer asked. Aurora answered without looking away from the line. "Letting something kind change your mind." Lily leaned on the counter, chin on fist. "And clouds," she said. "We do clouds when morning needs help." The producer smiled. "Clouds dumplings," Caleb translated. "For late nights that deserve a sunrise." The TV piece aired on a Tuesday after the lunch rush, somewhere between a city council segment and a weather map that apologized for itself. It sounded like a lullaby with facts. It looked like steam deciding to be light. Calls came in, not the loud kind. The kind with pauses. I remembered. Can we? Second course didn't go viral. It went local. Neighbors arrived with stories that smelled like work. A week later, the room applauded a teacher who had learned to hold a knife without holding her breath. A month later, 2 teens applied for permits to teach kids smaller than them how to dice a carrot without fear. By fall, the laundromat ran a once-a-week pot and spin night where laundry finished with soup, not a vending machine honey bun. The super stopped by for bowls and never seemed to find another notice in his pocket. That night, near closing a table in the corner, lingered 3 generations, the youngest asleep against a granddad's coat that smelled faintly of engine grease and peppermint. The grandmother lifted her spoon and spoke to no one in particular. "It tastes like we're allowed to try again." Aurora swallowed a warmth that didn't come from the stove. She watched Caleb hear it without turning shoulders, easing by a measure you only notice when you love someone's posture. She stepped into the alley to cool off. The city hummed in layers, dishwashers and buses' laughter, and a far siren that never came closer. She leaned against brick that held the day's heat and let herself catalog the sounds like a grateful thief. Footsteps approached, measured, confident. A man in a good suit stopped under the light. Not hungry, curious. He tugged at his cuff and smiled the way people do when they've decided they can help you for your own good. "Aurora Quinn," he said. The name landed old and stale. "You disappear beautifully." "Dinner's almost over," she said. "We open at 5. I'll come after hours then." He offered a card. She didn't take it. "I represent a group that knows how to scale good ideas. Franchise the heart, so to speak. Centralize supply, replicate guardrails, license the story. There's capital waiting for the right kitchen." "Stories don't license well," she said. "Everything licenses," he said, cheerful as a closing bell. "You just haven't found the right warehouse." Inside a pan-kissed heat, laughter spilled. A bell chimed as someone left a thank you steeper than the tab. Outside, the suit kept smiling. "You're not against Reach Aurora. You left a tower because you couldn't breathe. Let me give you air. 30 markets in a year." "And what would we call it?" she asked to measure him. "Hearth," he said without flinching. "With your blessing. With our muscle." She tasted the word in his mouth. It was too polished, like a coin rubbed thin. "We built ours slow," she said. "On purpose." "Slow is a luxury," he said. "Impact is a schedule." The door opened behind her. Caleb stepped out with 2 bowls and a dish towel over his shoulder. Steam rose, carrying lemon and forgiveness. He handed her 1 bowl, tasted the other. "We out of the good kind of cold air," yet he asked, then clocked the suit without interest. "You eating, I invest," the man said. "Different hunger," Caleb said, and sipped. The suit offered his smile to both of them. "Think about it," he said, tapping the card against his palm. "I'll call tomorrow." "You don't have our number," Aurora said. "I know how to find people," he said, and strolled into the soft city with shoes that had never met a flour spill. Caleb tilted his head. "Warehouse," he asked. "License," she said. "Scale." He blew on his spoon. "Salt, first," he said. "Then scale." She laughed because he had named the thing that needed naming. "I don't want to build a bigger room," she said. "I want to build more small ones." "Then we do," he said, as if schedules were pots and consent was heat. From inside, Lily's voice flew out before her body. "Dad, Aurora, the teacher table wants clouds for dessert. They said they had a hard day and morning is too far away." Caleb grinned sideways. "We can borrow some Dawn." Aurora looked at the bowls at the door at the sign that glowed modestly against the dark. Second course. She thought of the spoon in her pocket, the word that had held her through weather and meetings and a few moments when her old life tried to prove it was still taller. Stay. "Let's feed them," she said. They stepped inside. The bell chimed its modest yes. The room lifted its face toward light it could taste. Caleb tied a bundle of thyme with his old, careful hands. Lily dragged a chair over with a squeal so she could see the pot. Aurora loosened the lid and let the steam rise like a curtain that knows the next act. At the door, a silhouette paused in the glass, someone waiting or simply watching the kind of warmth that can't be bottled. The bell didn't ring. Not yet. The day the first snow came. Second course felt smaller in the best way. The front windows fogged soft with the breath of the city. People traced tiny hearts and names into the glass and laughed when the steam erased them. Inside, soup whispered on the stove like a conversation that never needed to end. Aurora stood at the counter watching snowflakes turn to water on the pane. The room behind her glowed in amber and silver, an evening full of familiar strangers. The chalkboard by the door said, "Pay what you can. Stay as long as you need." Lily balanced on a stool, stirring a pot with both hands. "Dad says I'm old enough for the big spoon," she announced proudly. "It's heavy, but it listens." Caleb smiled, tying a new bundle of thyme. "Big spoons are for small tempers," he said. They slow you down before you spill. Aurora looked over. That might be the best advice you've ever given me. Then you must have stopped running long enough to hear it, he said, and his voice was teasing, but there was gratitude beneath it. The door opened, a hush of winter slipping in. The producer from the local TV station stepped inside, cheeks red from cold. "Sorry," she said, shaking off snow. "No camera this time, just dinner." "You still remember how to eat without a lens?" Caleb asked. The woman laughed, trying to relearn. She set her gloves on the counter. "The segment we did, it's gone everywhere. Not viral, deeper. People write to say it made them cook something simple. Some said it made them call someone." Aurora nodded, warmth building behind her ribs. "That's all we ever wanted, to remind people they're allowed to start over." Caleb poured her a bowl. "House special, morning light soup." The woman took a sip, closed her eyes, and exhaled. "It tastes like relief." "That's the lemon," Lily said solemnly. "It forgives." The woman smiled. "Then I'll take forgiveness to go." When she left, the bell gave one soft chime, and the snow kept falling thick and slow. Later that night, after the last chair was flipped and the lights were dimmed to their heartbeat glow, Aurora and Caleb sat at the window with mugs of tea. The street outside was quiet except for a plow humming somewhere in the dark. Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, her hand curled around her bear, the same tired ear still missing a stitch. "Do you ever miss the old noise?" Caleb asked. Aurora thought for a moment. Sometimes. The hum of meetings, the rush of being important. But that noise never left space for music. And now it's just enough sound to know I'm here, she said. "This place, it gives me back to myself." He nodded. "Same here." Steam rose between them, curling like memory, like breath. Aurora reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the spoon, the one etched with stay. The engraving had worn faint from her thumb. "I kept it close," she said quietly. "It reminds me what mattered most." Caleb traced the spoon's edge with his finger. "You stayed," he said. "That's all it ever asked." She smiled. "You taught me how." He laughed softly. "I just kept the soup warm." The clock above the stove ticked past midnight. Outside, the last plow moved on, leaving the street smooth and untouched. "Do you think it'll last?" she asked. "What, the soup?" "The peace," she said. Caleb looked toward Lily, sleeping under her father's coat. "Peace isn't something that lasts," he said. "It's something you keep remaking. Like breakfast." Aurora's eyes glistened. "That sounds like a prayer." He shrugged. "Maybe it is." For a long moment, neither spoke. The kitchen hummed fan heater tea kettle, each sound steady alive. Then Aurora leaned closer. "When I first walked into your kitchen, I thought you were a man hiding from the world." And now he asked. "Now I think you were building a smaller one," she said. "One the rest of us could fit inside." He looked at her and smiled, the kind of smile that didn't need witnesses. "Then stay in it." "I'm not leaving," she whispered. He reached for her hand. The warmth between them was quiet, unhurried, full. Lily stirred on the couch, mumbling through a dream. Morning, soon Aurora turned toward her. "Not yet, sweetheart." "Then can we make pancakes tomorrow?" Caleb chuckled. "We can borrow some Dawn for that." The girl sighed contentedly and went still again. Aurora rested her head on Caleb's shoulder. The scent of thyme and lemon lingered on his sleeve. "You know, she said I used to think success was about being seen. And now I think it's about seeing people." He nodded slowly. "That's the whole recipe." Outside, the snow stopped. The world held its breath. Aurora stood and dimmed the last light. Steam from the soup pot curled upward in a faint silver spiral. She watched it rise and fade into the dimness, smoke memory prayer. "Funny," she said, "how the light always finds its way through the steam." Caleb came to stand beside her. "That's because it's the same thing he said. Heat trying to heal itself." She smiled, tears threatening but welcome. "Then we'll keep the fire going." They stood there for a while, two silhouettes against the window, the snow beyond it glowing faintly under the streetlight. Lily murmured again, half in dream. "Some people chase noise," she said softly, words drifting between sleep and air. "But Dad says real love is what's left when the fire cools and you're still standing in the kitchen together." Aurora turned, listening, her heart folding around the words like hands around a flame. Caleb whispered, "She gets that from her mother." "And maybe from you," Aurora said. The three of them stood in the halo of their quiet, and for the first time in years Aurora didn't feel like she was running towards something, only standing still exactly where life had waited. The kettle clicked off, the room filled with that gentle exhale that follows every finished song. Aurora poured the last of the tea, handed him a cup, and raised her own. "To mornings that find us," she said. Caleb touched his cup to hers. "And nights that keep us." They drank, and the steam between them shimmered like a living thing, light-bending fire, breathing love, staying. Sometimes the most beautiful changes begin in silence, not with noise, not with plans, but with small acts of kindness that ripple farther than we ever see. Aurora and Eli's story reminds us that even in the darkest hours, 2 in the morning when the world feels asleep, someone somewhere is still stirring a pot of hope. Maybe you've met someone like that. Someone who showed you what real strength looks like, not loud, but steady. Not perfect, but present. Or maybe you were that person for someone else without even realizing it. If you've ever lived a story like this or witnessed one, I'd love to hear it. Tell me your story in the comments below. Where are you watching from tonight? Because somewhere out there another soul might need to hear what you've lived through. And if this story touched your heart, please take a second to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so we can keep bringing you more stories that warm the heart, lift the spirit, and remind us that kindness is still alive. Thank you truly for spending your time with us tonight. Until next time, keep your fire gentle, your soup warm, and may you always find the light beneath the steam.